The handles jammed. Her fist hit the metal. It won't open. Smoke pushed over the ceiling like a tide. People coughed. Someone screamed. Outside the left windows, orange light flickered off the wing. Left side only, the captain shouted from the galley interphone. Right engine's on fire. Open left. The lead flight attendant threw all her weight into the door. The handle didn't budge. Her hands slipped on sweat. Her name tag flashed in the strobe. Carla. Move, a man yelled behind her. A child cried. Another attendant fumbled with the slide cover. The handle stayed frozen. From row 22C, a steady voice cut through the chaos. Stop yanking. You're loading the locking cam. Look at the girt bar. Carla whipped her head toward the aisle. Sit down. It's twisted, the voice said, calm, certain. Bottom left corner, the strap is under the hinge. She looked. A narrow blue strap, the slide's lifeline, had slipped where it shouldn't, caught under the hinge cover, invisible to most eyes, obvious now. Carla's jaw clenched. Minutes earlier, she had told that same man to sit down and leave the door to professionals. He stood, compact, Filipino, mid-30s. A backpack slung low, a worn polo, an engineer's posture. He met her eyes through smoke. Don't pull again, you'll shear the limiter. Back in your seat, she snapped. Carla, the junior attendant at the rear called, coughing hard. Aisles filling. The floor vibrated as the right engine spooled down. Fire crews flashed red against the windows. The smell of hot plastic got sharper. The man stepped to the galley line, palms up. He didn't touch anything. There's a panel behind the placard, he said. Peel it, use a stir stick, pop the pin, slide will free, then the handle will move. What panel? Carla's voice cracked. He pointed with 2 fingers, not too close. Here, bottom left, you can pry it without breaking, please. She hesitated. The captain's voice roared through the speaker again. Open that door now. Carla grabbed a wooden stir stick from the coffee kit with trembling fingers. She slid it under the edge of a small, paint-matched square. The panel popped. A dull brass pin glinted behind it. The engineer's hand hovered, directing, not touching. Push toward you, not up, she pushed. The strap sprung free with a snap. Now, he said. She threw the handle. It moved. The door blew open an inch, then lifted. Cold air hit. The slide unfurled with a roar and smacked the tarmac, blossoming. Cheers burst from the front rows, half sob, half shock. Go, Carla screamed. Jump and slide. The first passenger leapt, then another. A woman gathered her toddler and went down together. The crew formed a line. Carla turned back to the man. He was already scanning the aisle, eyes counting heads. He had been the one she'd brushed off at the gate. Back then, the cabin was still quiet. Boarding music played low. He stood by the entry, watching the same door she would later fight. He had pointed, polite, apologetic. Ma'am, there's a misalign. We're on time, she had cut him off with a smile that wasn't a smile. Please find your seat. He had stopped, swallowed it, and moved on. Now bodies flew into light. The right windows glowed orange as fire foam fanned across the skin of the plane. Smoke rolled from the rear. The junior attendant was shoving people down the slide with a gentle brutality. A man with a cane balked. The engineer stepped in, hooked the man's elbow, and led him to the door. 2 teenage boys tried to push past a woman with a baby. The engineer blocked them with his forearm, firm but careful. She's first, he said. They backed off, faces white. A sickening thud came from the rear. Someone had run into an armrest and crumpled. The junior attendant called for help. The engineer glanced back, then looked at the exit. Fire crews were spraying the right side. The captain was out of his seat, moving toward the rear, face set. Left, keep to the left. Carla yelled into her megaphone, which crackled and died. She tossed it and used her voice. Jump, don't sit, cross arms, go. The engineer stayed until the last older woman at the front hesitated. He put her hand on the frame. Look up, he said. Not down. She nodded, looked up, and jumped. He turned to Carla. They were the only 2 left at the door. The junior attendant was shepherding the last few from mid-cabin. The captain was shouting orders at the rear galley. Go, he told Carla. She stared at him. You go. Crew last, he said. Then we go together, she said. They slid down one after the other. They hit hard, cold ground. Wet foam sprayed their legs. The firefighter at the bottom grabbed them, dragged them clear, yelled at them to run. On the tarmac, under flashing lights, Carla bent over her knees and coughed until her whole body shook. The engineer stood next to her, hands on his thighs, sucking air. People clustered around the slides, shaking, crying, clinging to strangers. A little girl in a pink hoodie stood barefoot, clutching a stuffed panda. Her mother held her close and said over and over, thank you, to no one in particular. Carla straightened and looked at him. Her face was streaked with sweat and ash, her eyes were raw. You said the strap, she rasped. How did you know? He met her eyes. That model of door binds if the girt strap rides under the hinge cover. Only happens if the bayonet pin is out of tolerance. Carla blinked. You're a engineer, he said. Door systems. They both turned back to the aircraft. Fire crews doused the right side as foam steamed and ran in white rivers. Sirens faded. The night got louder with voices. They herded everyone into buses. Inside the blast of cold air, people sat on plastic seats, shivering under thin blankets. The engineer took a blanket and handed it to the man with the cane. The man nodded, eyes damp. You saved us, son. He shook his head. We all did. Carla slid into the seat across from him. Her hands were still shaking. She tried to rub it away and couldn't. She swallowed. At the door earlier, she said, voice low. What did you see? He looked past her, out the bus window at the wounded plane. Shiny wear on the latch cover. That tells you someone's opened and closed it with the panel misfit. The tolerance ring is off. Old problem. There's a service bulletin. And you tried to tell me, she said. You had a plane to get out. You hear a lot of people with opinions. I get it. She let out a breath and stared at the blanket bunched in her hands. She hadn't gotten it. She had seen a man with a backpack and a foreign accent and one more thing to manage. Now that felt like a fist in her gut. The bus jolted. People flinched. The driver spoke into a radio. They started moving. A uniformed station manager climbed aboard as the bus pulled into the terminal. He was crisp, smiling too much. Everyone's okay, he called. We're going to take care of you. Vouchers, hotels, the works. Please don't talk to media until we brief you. Carla's mouth tightened. She had stood in front of these speeches before. She had given them. But something in his eyes wasn't care, it was containment. The manager's gaze landed on the engineer. The smile twitched. Sir, could we speak privately? Carla's shoulders stiffened. He just helped us evacuate. He's with crew until Med clears him. I just have a few questions, the manager said. Routine. The engineer lifted a palm. It's okay. They stepped off the bus into a fluorescent hallway that smelled like sanitizer and stale coffee. A security officer stood by. The manager led them into a small room labeled Operations. Inside, a woman in a navy suit clicked a pen. Legal. She smiled like the station manager. We appreciate your calm, she said. We want to understand what happened. Did you touch the door before the evacuation? No, he said. Did you instruct crew to manipulate any safety mechanisms? Carla stepped in, heat rising. He told me where a panel was. A panel my training never mentioned. He saved time we didn't have. The legal woman's pen paused. We need to be precise. The engineer looked at the table. He said nothing. May we see your ID? The manager asked. He pulled out a battered leather wallet. Out came a driver's license, then a laminated badge on a lanyard. The manager leaned in. His smile snapped back on, too bright. The badge said Aeromax Systems Senior Engineer. The logo on the badge matched a tiny logo stamped in metal on the door plates of hundreds of planes around the world. Door Systems, the legal woman read aloud, eyes narrowing. You work for Aeromax, he said. Supplier for your 320s and 321s. I oversee the LS-4 latching assemblies. I write the service bulletins you don't always read. The manager's smile faltered. He shot a look at the legal woman. She flipped through papers she hadn't shown before. Her pen stopped clicking. Carla stared. What's your name? She asked, voice soft. Lito Navarro, he said. Manila office. Stateside for 2 weeks. Meetings. With us, the manager said, a beat slow. Lito held his gaze. With you, he repeated. We flagged a mismachined batch of bayonet pins last quarter. They wear shallow under load. Under certain cycles, the strap drifts under the hinge cover. When someone pulls, it binds. We sent a bulletin. We asked for voluntary replacement. And we, Carla let the word hang. The legal woman looked at the table. The manager smoothed his tie. We scheduled it with C-checks, he said quickly. Planful, responsible. Carla's throat went dry. C-checks happen months apart. Tonight proves the bulletin is not optional, Lito said. The calm in his voice was gone. Something else sat there. There was smoke in the cabin. You had fire on one side. You had one door. A binding strap could have cost lives. Fortunately, it didn't, the legal woman said. We evacuated successfully. No serious injuries. Lito leaned forward. That was luck, training, and a stir stick. The manager's smile thinned. Mr. Navarro, we appreciate your input, but we need to keep timelines in context. Let's not dramatize. Carla made a small sound. The manager turned to her. Carla, as lead, your incident report will reflect. My report will reflect what happened, she said, the shake gone from her hands. He warned me at the door. I dismissed him. I own that, but he was right. That strap was out of place. We need to fix it fleet-wide. The legal woman's eyes flicked. We will follow process. The room was a fist. It had walls and a table and a clock that ticked too loud. Lito's jaw worked. He had not flown here to be polite in a small room. He was flying here because his father had once fixed buses in Quezon City with baling wire, because he had promised him he would build machines that didn't need miracles to be safe. He stood. I want to speak to maintenance, he said. Tonight. That's not, the manager began. Carla cut in. It is, bring them. The station manager weighed the risk. The legal woman glanced at him. He sighed. Fine, he said. Maintenance only. They walked to the hangar. It was midnight bright under halogen. A 321 sat with her belly open, tendons of cable and pipe exposed. The right engine on their aircraft still steamed. A crew of mechanics huddled under the left front door. A foreman looked up, grease-streaked, tired. This your latch? He asked Lito. Lito crouched without ceremony, shoulder to shoulder with the foreman. He pointed at the bayonet pin. See the wear line, that's too shallow, it lets the strap wander. Look at the hinge cover, scrape marks, she caught here. When she pulled, it jammed. The foreman swore under his breath. We saw the bulletin, we got a stack that week. And, Lito asked, not looking up, we bumped it. Ops told us to wait for C-checks, the foreman said. He didn't sugarcoat it. His eyes held Lito's, not my call. Carla stood above them and felt something settle in her chest. It wasn't relief, it wasn't anger. It was a hard, simple shape, truth. Lito stood and faced the foreman. How many frames? He asked. 30, the foreman said. He scratched his jaw. Maybe 40. Lito nodded once. Okay, he walked to the station manager. Ground the frames with LS4 assemblies until the pins are replaced, he said. No drama in his tone, just wait. Assuming you want to keep your customers alive. The manager opened his mouth. Legal stepped forward. We can't just ground. That decision is above my pay grade, Lito said. But I can email the FAA or ESA or your CEO. I have the data. And 20 minutes ago, I watched a lead attendant beat a door like it was a safe because the pin you still fly on let her strap bind. The foreman whistled low. Carla watched the station manager's face fight itself. He needed to keep planes moving. He needed to keep jobs. He needed to not be the one who let someone die. Do it, Carla said. She didn't know if she had the right. She said it anyway. The station manager swallowed. He looked at the legal woman. She didn't click her pen. She nodded once. Slow. Park them, she said softly. We'll take the hit. It wasn't heroics. It was arithmetic. By 3 a.m., an email went out. A short, sterile sentence that would ripple through scheduling centers and passenger apps, out of service for maintenance. Mechanics rolled bins of new pins to a line of sleepy planes. Lito stayed until the first was swapped, not for show, but because reality tastes different when you stand under a wing and touch a fix with your own hands. The passengers from the evac got sent to hotels. Carla found an empty gate and sat. The room felt too big. Her hands finally stopped shaking. She looked up and saw the little girl in the pink hoodie toddling down the hall, panda in a fist. The girl's mother rushed up, tugging a rolling suitcase and a hotel voucher. We're in 204, she said, half laughing, half crying. We don't even know where that is. Carla smiled for real, the first time all night. She took the voucher, walked them to the map, traced the hotel shuttle route with a finger. The girl looked up with serious eyes. You yelled loud, she said. Carla laughed, choked. I did. The mother turned to Lito. He had just emerged from the hangar, hands black with grease, badge crooked on his chest. The mother took his hand. He told you the thing with the strap, she asked Carla. He did, Carla said. The mother squeezed his fingers. Thank you. He dipped his head. Words felt small. He used them anyway. You're welcome. They stood there in a weird little triangle at 3:30 a.m., three people who had not known each other at dinner and now shared a night none of them would forget. A week later, a video appeared online. A passenger had filmed from the front row. It started at the jam. It caught the strain in Carla's voice, the way people pressed and pulled, the panic. It caught Lito's voice say, clear as a bell, stop yanking, you're loading the locking cam. It caught the slide exploding open, the cheer. It caught the moment at the bottom of the slide when Carla and Lito hit the foam and rolled, and she looked at him like she was seeing his face for the first time. The internet did its thing. It made a story out of people's worst minutes and best ones. It made comments. It argued over training, over tone, over class, over who gets believed when minutes count. The airline issued a statement. It was long. It was written by a team. It didn't mention bayonet pins. It did say increased vigilance. It did say fleet-wide checks. Behind the press release, in a training room with bad coffee, Carla stood in front of a group of new hires and put a crude printout of a latch assembly on a whiteboard. "It's not in the binder like this," she told them, "but you need to know it. Pulling harder isn't always the answer. Listen. Look." They leaned in. She pointed with a marker. Her voice was steady. It wasn't about looking smart now. It was about being ready when smart isn't in the manual. That afternoon, Leto sat in a glass-walled conference room on the 34th floor. Executives in suits asked him about metrics and liability. He answered in words they understood. He also slid a picture across the table, a close-up of a hinge cover with a tiny scrape nobody noticed until someone did. He didn't tell them his father used to hold bus parts in his hands like prayers. He didn't tell them he had flown halfway around the world to stop this from happening to somebody else. He stayed in the language that moved money and schedules, but his eyes had the same calm he had at the door. After the meeting, he went down to the cafeteria. He stared at a sandwich he didn't want. Carla walked in and saw him. She had switched out of uniform, jeans, hair in a loose knot. She carried 2 coffees. She set one in front of him. "Truce," she said. He smiled without brightness. "There's no war." "I made it," she said. 5 years, 3 flights a day sometimes. I've seen men reach for switches like they built them. Some just want to feel important. I thought you were one of those." "I get mistaken for a lot of things," he said. She nodded. "I can't tell you I'm sorry enough times to balance it, but I am." He nodded. "And I can't tell you enough times that I get it. You have to filter noise. You can't chase every shadow." She captured the corner of her cup with her thumb. "I filtered the wrong one." "You corrected when it mattered," he said. "That counts." She let that sit. It wasn't absolution. It was a fact that didn't make the other fact go away. It was also a tether. He pulled out his phone. He showed her a picture, a factory floor, a box of pins with a label, a date. "We're doing it," he said. "All of them." She looked at the picture like it was a tiny door to a bigger world. "Good," she said. He thumbed to another picture, a text, Manila, his mother. She had sent a selfie with a caption in Tagalog, a blessing, a joke. He almost translated, then didn't. Some things don't need to cross. He put the phone away. "Can I ask something?" Carla said. He gestured. "Go ahead." "When you stood up," she said, "with smoke and people and yelling, were you scared?" He thought. He tried to feel it again. The heat, the noise, the way the handle didn't move, the way his heart didn't spike, not the way it did now in a quiet room with a coffee cup. "No," he said, "not like that." "How?" She asked, not doubting, wanting to understand. He searched for a simple truth. He chose one. "The door needed to open." She laughed once. A small, disbelieving sound, then she nodded. She lifted her coffee, he lifted his. They tapped cups. Months later, somewhere over the Pacific, a different lead attendant, another long night, stared at a door that didn't feel right. She remembered a story from training. She crouched. She checked the strap. She didn't pull hard. She popped a panel with a stir stick. The handle moved. She filed an ASAP report. Maintenance pulled the plane. They found a mismachined pin. They changed it. Nobody filmed it. Nobody cheered. 10 minutes late to Hong Kong. People groaned about missed connections. The hinge didn't scrape anymore. The little girl with the panda slept in a bed at home under a fan that clicked. She would never remember the smell of foam on her socks. Her mother sometimes did. When she did, she sent a message. It said thank you to an email address in a company directory that had forwarded her note without anyone asking. On a wall in a training room, a dumb paper printout of a latch assembly stayed taped there long after the curriculum changed. New hires rolled their eyes at it. Old hands tapped it with their knuckles as they walked out. Habit. Folklore. On a flight out of Manila, months later, a ground agent stood at a door and watched a man in a worn polo stop and glance at a hinge cover. The agent, young, proud, said, "We've had no problems since we changed the pins." The man smiled. "Good," he said and moved on. Halfway down the aisle, a passenger flagged him. "Sir," the passenger said, pointing up, "there's a rattle in this overhead." "Might be nothing." He paused, he looked, he listened. "Thank you," he said. He flagged a flight attendant, "Worth a check." The attendant checked. A screw had backed out. She tightened it. She thanked the noisy passenger. He stopped apologizing and started noticing other things that actually mattered. People took off, people landed, doors opened, doors closed. A stir stick sat in a galley bin, just another piece of wood in a plastic cup, waiting for coffee or something else. And somewhere between the moment a door jammed and a slide bloomed into safety, a line got drawn that was thin and real: people who talk because they like the sound, and people who talk because they've carried the parts in their hands and know how they break. Sometimes those people look like heroes. Usually they look like passengers with backpacks who get told to sit down. That night on the tarmac, the first orange flash reflected in Carla's eyes, and she made a choice. She listened to the man she had brushed off. She popped the pin. She opened the door. Minutes earlier, she would have bet money she was right. The jam proved her wrong. The rest of the night proved something else: the right person, the right moment, and a thin strip of blue webbing can be the difference between a story everyone survives and a story no one tells.